It is 4 p.m. We're developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Madeline Gao. Some stories are watching this Tuesday, March 17. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or the LTFRB, has approved fare hikes across most public utility vehicles except regular and motorcycle taxis. Starting Thursday, March 19, jeepney fares will increase by 1 to 2 pesos, while bus rates will also go up depending on the type. Airport taxis will also see a 40 peso hike in flag down rates, and TNVS fares will rise by around 20 pesos. P2P buses, meanwhile, will implement a 15% increase based on current rates. The LTFRB says the move is a balancing act aimed at helping drivers cope with rising fuel costs while still protecting the commuting public.
Unfortunately, another bit of bad news. Air travelers can also expect higher fares next month. That's after the Civil Aeronautics Board, or CAB, raised the passenger fuel surcharge to level 8. That's for April 1 to 15. That's a jump from level 4 in March. This more than doubles current rates, with domestic surcharges now at 787 pesos, up from 253 pesos, and international fees reaching as high as 6,200 pesos from only 835 pesos at the moment. That is, of course, depending on the distance that you travel. The CAB says that the shorter 15-day cycle will allow faster adjustments amid volatile fuel prices.
The government has started rolling out fuel subsidies to help ease the impact of rising oil prices. Tricycle drivers in Metro Manila have begun receiving 5,000 pesos in cash aid, with long lines seen across 30 payout sites. Around 139,000 drivers are expected to benefit from the initial distribution, which runs until Thursday. The assistance, funded under the DSWD's Crisis Situations Program, will also be extended to jeepney and TNVS drivers in the coming days.
Meantime, the Senate is pushing to fast-track a bill that would give the president emergency powers to suspend or reduce fuel excise taxes. Senate President Tito Soto says lawmakers aim to pass the measure on second and third reading today to speed up action within the chamber. He added that the proposed amendments to the Biofuels Act will need more study due to its impact on key industries. Soto has also filed a bill seeking to repeal the oil deregulation law, citing limited government control over fuel pricing. In other news, petitioners behind the third impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte have waived their right to file a reply to her response. The group, that's led by a Catholic priest, says Duterte's answer failed to directly address key allegations, including questions on how confidential funds were spent. They argue that there is no need to reply, alleging that the response, or Duterte's response, did not specifically deny material issues raised in the complaint. Among their concerns is the alleged spending of 125 million pesos in just 11 days and the use of over 600 million pesos in total in confidential funds.
And joining us today is Storycon's resident political heckler, Tito Raul Llamas.
Good afternoon.
Yan, generic ang pag-ano ko sa'yo, pag-introduce.
Good afternoon, Principal.
Mainit ulo ko. Everything is going up. Don't talk to
Bakit may naulo niya?
Fare high.
Kuryente niya sa bahay.
Kuryente. Airfare. Everything is going up. Ask Ami.
Shampoo.
Philippine. Let's bring in
Ikaw kasi
Philippine.
wala ka problema sa shampoo eh.
Let's bring in Philippine Star Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Hi, Ami.
Am I right or am I right?
Hi, hello everyone. Happy Tuesday.
Unhappy
Lahat
Tuesday.
tumataas.
Happy naman si Ami ah.
Buti pa si Ami.
Oh, happy naman si Ami ah.
Konting good news ulit. Bibili daw ang PNOC ng 2 million barrels of diesel para madagdagan yung reserve natin. Yan na. Ako, bringer of good news.
Ikaw naman, kala ko ikaw yung bibili.
Teka lang, maniwala ka, bringer of good news siya. Yung Philippine Star yan, sila yung nag-headlines, yung mga headlines nila. Just joking, Ami. So we
Pansin
were...
ko lang po
pinag-usapan...
talagang kumonti ang traffic.
Of course.
For the wrong
konti
reasons, of
talaga.
course. For the wrong reasons. Pero kumonti ang traffic
Whether it's
sense.
the right reason or the wrong reason, pwede na rin. I mean, you know.
Di ba ikaw, galing ka pang QC eh.
Talagang clutching at straws eh. Ako yung, baka may makuha lang na.
Teka lang, pinag-uusapan namin to. The reserves that we're holding right now. So Ami said we're
Yeah.
buying, PNOC is buying 2 million barrels of
2
oil.
million.
Kasi, I think it was yesterday, we heard that the reserves were down to 38 days from 50 to 60 days. But you heard something else.
Sino may sabi nun?
The industry, the businessmen. Well, I can't name. Now, so
Well, yung nakausap ko kagabi, 20 days eh. Pero,
yun yung narinig mo, 20
problema
days.
kasi hindi naman natin masukat.
Exactly. Si DOE lang presumably ang may access nun. I don't even know if they check it.
Tapos, wala naman daw nagche-check. Wala naman
Wala,
nagbukat, di ba?
wala daw nag-check.
Siguro, mga once a year, mag-check. Oh.
Anong gagawin niyo? Bibilang ng ilang bariles ang ano ka dyan.
Ang hirap i-check
Parang
yun.
lang sa kotse, ah.
Ang hirap i-check yun eh.
Hindi, pero
Parang ilang garapon ang meron mo dyan.
Kung sabihin ko sa'yo, meron ako 60 days.
pero hindi pala.
O, paano mo check yun?
We're in a time of crisis. Presumably,
good
pag
faith.
DOE ako, meron akong authority to go and check, right? Or
Well, maganda
it's all in
yung-
good faith.
Yung sinasabi ni Ami na may 2 billion barrels. ang
PNOC. Mas maganda yung sinabi niya. Ewan ko kung she was quoted accurately. Si Energy Secretary Sharon Garin, sabi niya, wala naman daw oil crisis.
Kasi may supply.
Ang daw lang is, mahal nga lang.
Mataas ang presyo.
Nagdoble lang yung presyo ng oil.
Ewan ko kung ano konteksto nito, pero
Sabi ko
kung
sa'yo, wala
meron
namang
kaming
oil
ganun
crisis eh.
It's
wala naman daw oil crisis.
Pinapainit talaga.
glass half empty, glass half full. Yung ganyang logic.
Inaasar ko. Naasar ko lang si Reg. Hindi, pero totoo yun, Tinitingnan ko lang kung ano yung context ng
Ami, teka
pagkakasabi.
lang, Ami, ha? You're on my side, don't forget. Against these two,
You're both mothers, diba? Mas
these
kayo-
two,
Nandamay ako bigla.
parating kasama.
May
parating
langis
alay mo
naman
si
daw
Ronald.
May langis naman daw, mahal nga lang. Kaya walang oil crisis.
Kaya may lang is kasi wala makabili masyado.
Dumoble na ang
Doble na.
Yeah.
airfares, for example. I was,
Yeah.
and this is personal experience last week versus this week when I was checking the flights. Dumoble kaagad siya. And of course, the big news today is that CAB has approved the new
Yeah.
surcharge for fuel surcharge for flights booked for April 1 to 15.
Kahit na wala daw national emergency rin. Yan naman yung sa Malacanang. No need for a national emergency
Sorry, yung
to control
yung-
fuel prices.
yung fuel surcharge pala, just to break it down, for domestic flights, it's now between 253 to 787 pesos fuel surcharge. For international flights, it's between 835 pesos 5 cents to 6,208.98. 6,208 pesos 0.98. So you can imagine how much that will add to your flight tickets, right?
Kaya tataas pa yan.
Kasi level 8
yung
na ito.
shipping last week pa nagtaas
Yung level 8 na to for airfares, this month nasa
Yeah.
level 4 lang tayo. So it jumped twice as much.
Wala naman talagang oil crisis. Kaya hindi
Meron lang
kinakailangan.
price crisis.
Sabi
Kaya
nga,
hindi
gusto niya good
kinakailangan
news
ng
yan
emergency
ang good news.
powers. Ano ba kayo? Hingi ng emergency powers. Wala namang crisis.
Kahit naman, but
So, sino nakatira sa coin pa
I
kaya?
wasn't asking for emergency powers, by the way, kasi, you know,
Special power ang
not an economist, someone who covers the economy, I know may trade-off yun. Katulad ng sinabi ni former NEDA Secretary Winnie Monsod today, she said na, well, it's not a good idea because yung blanket suspension of fuel subsidies, fuel excise taxes also benefits the rich. And when you look at this group called Action for Economic Reforms broke it down. When you look at the fuel consumption in the country, about half of the fuel consumption is by the top 10% of the socio-economic class. So the rich have an outsized contribution to fuel consumption here in this country.
Well, kaya nga
So kapag linangkit ban mo yon, pati sila
You're
magbe-benefit.
subsidizing those who
You're
can afford.
subsidizing the wealthy as well. That's one way to look at it in economics.
Yeah, kaya nga nag-unite yung labor at capital Dahil tingin nila pareho silang makikinabang. Dahil hindi naman sila mag-unite kung labor lang ang makikinabang. Pero anong proposal mo? Ang proposal kasi ni Winnie Monsod,
Targeted.
wealth tax.
Oh.
No, wealth tax yung kanyang target.
Kinakabahan ka?
Hindi.
Kasi
Tanong
tama.
ko, viable ba yun? No, is that viable?
First of all,
kailangan mo kasi immediate relief.
Exactly. That is not a solution at the moment. Kasi that's gonna take minimum a year to see through, if
Yes.
that even comes to pass, right? You're
And
asking
expect the
Congress.
wealthiest people who are in Congress to pass it.
Exactly. You're gonna ask Congress to pass this law taxing
Yes.
themselves.
Ako, okay ako sa wealth tax. Pero, para naman
20% wealth
para naman
tax,
yung mga
diba?
katabi ko
Walang
dito,
mangyayari
matax naman
dyan.
kahit pa paano, no?
Yung tinatax mo na wealth, nandun lahat sa Congress.
Kasi amin nagsabi nun.
Walang mangyayari dyan.
Paano, di ba, sa Europe, matagal na yan no? Sinisimula na yung wealth tax na yan. Kaya kahit pa paano, yung elite sa Europe, no, ang tawag sa kanila, modernizing, dahil part ng kanilang wealth, binibigay nila sapat. Kaya maganda yung social
It's
welfare.
social,
Kaya
social democracy.
Yeah, dahil maganda yung education,
Combination of-
health, no, yung social insurance.
May social safety net talaga for everybody.
Saka hindi pwedeng sobrang laki ng agwat ng mahirap at saka mayaman. Kaya may ganun Dito, okay yun. Pero babaguhin mo yung sistema.
So magcha-charter change na tayo.
Hindi
Yun
lang.
yung solusyon.
Hindi na lang. Babaguhin mo talaga yung
Because-
sistema.
Oh, because then you have Senate President Tito Soto, proposing to look into the oil deregulation law.
Gusto lang nila makontrol yung pricing niya. Ay,
Yes.
nako, ibigay niyo sa mga politiko.
We keep coming back to this, and there is a reason inabolish na nga yung sistema.
Yeah.
So many years ago. When was it? 1998? So 28 years
February.
ago. There is a reason we moved away from that, right? And now, just because of this crisis, binabalik na naman yung usapan there. It did not work for a reason, right? I don't know how many times we have to
Ay,
keep
nako.
saying it. It didn't work for a reason. Wag na balikan yun because, it was already heavily politicized back then, right? And the issue was, yung government ended up subsidizing yung difference sa oil price, sa global market prices versus sa local prices. Which means,
Saka it's also a risk for the administration. Ako si Marcos, hindi ako papayag Kasi ikaw ang sisisihin kapag mataas yung And you cannot control it.
yes.
Yeah.
And there
Pero-
are factors, as we are saying, beyond your control. Hindi ka makakilos.
Pero, ang problema kasi, for lack of proposals, ang kinuha nila, mga knee-jerk actions, at saka yung mga lesser evil.
Kaya nga, di ba matatagalan yung mga yung mangyari.
But is there middle ground ba? Kasi I also
Huwag kayong mag-alala.
I understand ang problema with giving government again the power to regulate and set prices. On the other hand, ang argumento naman ng iba is the regulation also didn't work kasi the free market was supposed to bring in fair market pricing. And
Ano ba ibig sabihin nun?
To a degree, hindi rin
Sinasabi
talaga yung
nila
free market,
cartelized.
fair market
Kapag
pricing.
magkakadikit kayo dyan, di ba?
You
Siyempre,
know-
pupunta yung tao kung saan
you
mura.
know, deregulation
You
did
can
not...
describe that as a cartelized behavior. Sabihin ng mga negosyante, that's a businessman's common behavior. You're competing
Yeah, that's how a free market works.
Hindi, pero
And
halimbawa, ngayon, short term, medium term, long term, anong ipopropose?
Alam mo,
Oo.
okay,
Ano ngayon,
so
ayuda,
yung
ginagawa?
yung question ni Ed, deregulation did not work because we did not take advantage of the mechanism. For example, iisa na lang natirang refining facility in the Philippines that belongs to Petron in Bataan, which means we're heavily vulnerable there, right? If iisa lang yung processing plant natin, which means we have to buy in other markets, and that's why we're susceptible.
Pero in the same
The
time,
other two facilities were shut down when? I think it was during the pandemic, right? Do you remember, Ami? Yung ibang refining facilities. Tapos hindi na. We never invested to try to bring those back online.
Exactly. In the same breath kasi, kaya rin nag-fail yung regulation dahil palpak yung gobyerno, di ba? Oo.
Kaya nga,
Pero,
Ang sakit.
You think?
pero,
pag
pero
magpaparegulate
in a
kayo, you
different
better have
government,
efficient
halimbawa,
and
kung
honest
gobyerno,
people.
Oh.
baka mag-work ang regulation, di ba? Yung ganun. Ang sinasabi ko lang,
O, so tatakbo ka nga.
ang sinasabi ko lang, yung deregulation, hindi nag-work. Di ba? Deregulation, hindi nag-work dahil hindi na-implement.
Exactly.
Ganun din
Yun yung
naman
problema.
ganun din yung problema sa regulation because hindi rin siya na-implement. So, parehong may problema kung talagang walang maayos na implementation.
So where's the middle ground? What would
Of
work for
a
us?
free market economy, the promises of a free market economy were never delivered. That is the problem. Nag-deregulate tayo and dapat nga bababa, but we never built up our own processing facility. And what did we end up doing the last several years? Import more things. We import everything,
Mas
from
mabilis
fertilizers to finished goods.
we import everything, including salt, including
salt.
milk.
Yeah.
Kasi we cannot
bakit?
iodize our own salt.
Mas madali mag-import kaysa mag-develop ng local industry.
And then we let
Ayun.
go of Petron. So that would
Halimbawa,
possibly have been a
kasi
hedge.
halimbawa, regulation in a different system like Europe, it
Would
works.
work.
It
Would
works,
work,
diba?
exactly.
Yun yung,
Oo.
kwan. At nag-develop yung kanilang, hindi lang yung kanilang economy, yung citizenship. Di ba? So, ang sinasabi ko ay, kung aayusin mo,
So saan tayo
Yeah.
hahanap ng
Oo.
someone with political will to see this through?
Ayan, katabi ko.
Si Ed.
Katabi ko. Halimbawa, kung ikaw lang sa gobyerno, ikaw lang sa gobyerno, iba gagawin mo. Doon sa nangyayari ngayon.
I will wipe the slate
Oo.
clean.
Yeah, ang sinasabi ko lang, merong mga taong ganon na pag nailagay sa gobyerno at hindi itong mga magnanakaw na ito, no? Baka merong pagbabago. Parang either way kasi may problema eh.
Either
O
way,
nag-iiba
may
sila
problema.
pag nasa gobyerno.
Either way may problema eh.
Either way may
Diba?
problema.
It
Oo nga,
boils
tama
down
si
to
Ed,
leadership,
nag-iiba
to
pagdating sa
implementation.
gobyerno.
No, lahat yan
Di
eh.
ba, Ami? Gagaling mga
Oo,
ideas
totoo
pag wala
yan.
sa gobyerno, pero pag nasa
We've
gobyerno
been disappointed so many
magbabago rin ng
times.
Ito, what about instead of a wealth tax, we have a hidden wealth tax?
Uy, I love that. O sino yung hahabol sa hidden wealth? O ikaw.
Kaya nga, sige nga.
Kasi
Bubuhayin natin
di hamak
yung
mas
mga
maraming
Gigi.
hidden wealth eh, kasi ang acknowledged wealth eh.
Magkano yung estate tax na hindi pa nababayaran? Sige nga.
Oh, yan.
6%.
Yan yung paborito ni
Isang
Ami.
pamilya lang yun. Paano pa yung
Tax
ibang
lang.
pamilya na
Hindi kasi
nasa
sinasabi excise tax na mawawala, 100 something
Pero yung
something.
pinapropose ko
200
kasi
billion
is
yung
no less than
sinisipil
a
natin
revolution.
Sorry.
Di ba, Ami, yung taxing the rich, ang hinihingi mo is no less than a revolution. Dahil yung nagpapatakbo ng bansa ngayon are the wealthy.
Walang kahinatnan yan.
Di ba? Are the wealthy. So,
Yung magpapasa ng batas na yan are all the wealthy that you're
Magkape
trying
na nga
to
lang
tax.
oo.
Not gonna happen.
Kaya ang
Para
hinahanap
nga,
ko,
yung
a viable
anti-dynasty,
proposal,
tignan mo yung lumabas
knowing
na
the limits of the
anti-dynasty sa
present
House.
system. Di ba? Ito yung limits ng present system. Ano yung pwedeng gawin?
Ang pwedeng gawin, so you're looking at short term. Short term, the answer really is subsidies. And I don't know if how what do you call this? Strong we are diplomatically or how capable we are diplomatically. But there's also maybe an opportunity there to talk to the other ASEAN countries that do have oil reserves, right? Di ko lang alam if that's even on the table, if that's even being talked about. Kahapon or the other day, we, by that I mean the government, convened the ASEAN foreign ministers and economic ministers to talk about this crisis in the Middle East. And ang takeaway doon was we need to improve the energy, food and water security dimensions of the ASEAN countries. Parang hindi ko pa nakikita yung buong statement, so I don't know if anything concrete came out of that. You just have to trust that they are working on some things.
Ang problema sa subsidies, ang liit ng ating fiscal space. Di ba? Ang liit eh.
Yun din
So,
yung argument pag tatanggalin mo yung fuel excise taxes,
ang
right?
hindi,
Napakaliit na nga ng fiscal space sa tatanggalin mo pa.
Yeah. Ang assumption kasi dyan ay i-improve mo ang tax collection, i-improve mo
Yeah.
ang anti-corruption, no? Dahil may malaki kang
Nako,
makukuha
puro
dyan.
very big if.
Diba? Oo.
Everybody has planned that.
Very,
we will
very
improve
big
tax collection and revenue collection.
Nag-negotiate na lang tayo
Kaya
ng
ang
langis sa
tanong,
Russia.
meron
O
ka
yun,
bang
medyo
political
viable pa
will,
yun.
leadership na gagawa, no?
When we
Teka,
seize
yung
the
moja nakikita kanina po.
assets of Zaldico, I wonder how much we could return
Yung
to the
mga
government.
neighbors kasi natin, mas maganda yung fiscal space kaysa sa atin.
Oo. Mas maganda.
Ang
oo.
subsidy kasi, magiging just a drop in the bucket kung hindi mo masusustain. Katulad ngayon, yung tigpa 5,000.
Bigyan mo 5,000. Tapos wala na yan.
Ang nasana yun.
Isang karga lang yan ng gasolina.
Dalawang araw-araw daw eh.
Yeah.
5,000.
And don't forget yung jeepney, hindi pa makukuha this week, ha? Una-unahin yung tricycles.
Yeah.
Tapos, hindi pa natin
Uy, teka,
sigurado.
yung module natin
Sa
naghihintay kanina pa.
Friday, tataas ulit ang presyo. Sa Friday.
Don't say it.
Ipasok natin. Sa Santa Mesa, Manila this morning, the President led the distribution of fuel subsidies to hundreds of tricycle drivers. Bakit siya nabigay? Details from our mobile journalist, Julie Baisa. Julie!
Performative.
Yes, Bok Ed, pinangunahan nga niya yung pamamahagi ng cash assistance sa Santa Mesa, Manila kanina umaga. Ang sabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, binabantayan daw ng government yung development sa Middle East para maging handa sa anumang pangyayari. 600 tricycle drivers yung nakatakda na bigyan ng 5,000 pesos cash assistance from the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Sabi ng Pangulo, gusto daw nilang masiguro na tuloy-tuloy yung hanap buhay ng mga driver at yung mga commuter patuloy daw na makakapasok ng trabaho. Hindi lang naman daw nga tricycle driver yung mabibigyan ng 5,000 pesos na cash assistance kasi next week pinaliwanag ng DSWD na susunod naman yung mga jeepney at TNVS driver. Ngayon, pagkatapos naman dito sa Metro Manila ng mga NCR drivers at saka pa lang tayo pupunta sa mga driver sa probinsya. So after Lenten season, hopefully daw ma-roll out na rin yung cash assistance sa mga lalawigan. Ang naitanong kanina kay Secretary Gatchalian, paano, merong ilang mga nagsasabi kasi sa atin na may mga kasamahan sila na wala doon sa listahan. So yung fear nila is baka mapolitika dahil sa LGU nang gagaling yung listahan ng kung sino yung makakatanggap ng cash assistance. Ang sabi ni Gatchalian kanina, basta merong license to operate yung isang driver, dapat makakakuha siya. At kung wala siya sa listahan, pwede siyang pumunta sa LGU at ipakita yung kanyang license to operate para maisama siya sa mga scheduled na payout. Aside from that, wala din daw na hinihinging ng mga processing fee at LGU lang yung pwedeng humawak doon sa listahan. Sa side naman po ng DOTR, nilinaw nila na iba pa itong cash assistance kasi under DSWD ito doon sa fuel subsidy. Wala pa daw presyo ngayon at inaayos pa kung paano naman yung magiging rollout ng fuel subsidy ng LTFRB at ng DOTR. Yung mga nakausap din natin kanina, no, halos ilan dun sa mga nagsabi, hindi naman sa gasolina dadalhin kundi sa pagkain. Marami sa kanila, ang sabi nila, pambibili na lang daw ng bigas at saka ulam para secured na yung ilang araw nila. Kaysa daw kung ikakarga mo ng marami or mag-iimba ka ng gasolina, hindi ka naman din sure kung may maisasakay. So yun yung thoughts ng mga drivers na nakausap natin.
Tama yun. Dahil hindi lang naman fuel ang tumaas eh. Tumaas din yung pagkain, yung gamot, yung kuryente, yung tubig, etc. So, yung 5,000 mo, hahati-hatiin mo yon. Baka akala kasi ng iba, uy, may 5,000 para sa gasolina.
And
diba?
again, hindi to siguradong weekly, 'di ba, Julie, or even monthly? For now, it's
Yes,
a one-off.
ang sabi ng DSWD, kung kakailanganin, meron pa naman daw ulit na panibagong 5,000 pesos. Pero ang tanong nga is, paano natin na-identify yung kakailanganin? Kung paulit, ilang beses ba dapat or magkano ba dapat ulit yung itataas? Pero ang nilinaw naman nila, previously, merong 30 billion na pondo na ini-align na
AIX.
per cash aid para sa pamamahagi ng ayuda. Pero sasapat ba yan? Kasi sa ngayon, nandito pa lang naman tayo sa Metro Manila and paano pa yung mga nasa probinsya na
Julie,
marami na rin mga reklamo.
Julie, sorry, I don't know if I missed it in your reporting, pero meron bang total figure na lang na magbibigyan ng subsidy na ito? Do we have a figure yet?
Sa tricycle drivers, 139,000 yung mabibigyan ng 5,000 pesos na subsidy. Dito pa lang po yan sa NCR. Wala pa yung listahan kapag nationwide na. Ngayon, dito sa NCR pa rin, more than 360,000 naman kung kasama yung mga jeepney at saka TNVS.
So, 360,000 sa NCR pa lang.
Kahapon
NCR
yata
pa lang.
nagbigay
Wala
ng
pang
numbers yung
nationwide na
presidente.
data.
Julie,
Okay.
kala ka walang politiko sa mga pagbigay ng ayuda.
Tinanong ko nga rin po kanina kasi nandun si Mayor Isko Moreno at saka si Metro Manila Council President Mayor San Juan,
Oh.
San Juan Mayor Zamora, no? Inescortan lang daw po ang Pangulo at hindi
Inescortan
naman
lang.
Sa lahat ng
nagstay.
picture, ano tawag doon?
Hindi naman daw sila nagstay doon. ano.
Inescortan lang eh.
Julie, may sinasabi si Ronald about the escort.
Inescortan lang eh. Tingnan po naman si
Escort.
Juan, si Mayor Zamora.
Marami
laki-laki.
mag-escort dyan all over the Philippines.
Nalito rin si Presidente.
Oo nga, Ami, that's a good
Ay,
point.
nako,
Bawal,
ano ba
bawal
yan?
dapat,
Yes,
sa
pati tinanong nga
distribution
din
of...
po namin kanina. Pero ang wala naman po, pasalamat naman, wala
Si
mga
Ami ang
pictures
galing sa kuweba ngayon.
ng
Ayan, no,
politicians.
picture, may video.
Hindi, wala pong malaking picture. Kasi parang may mga sinasabi na sa ibang payout, merong malaking picture ni BBM.
Okay.
Wala
Ami,
namang
Ami.
picture pero nandun naman in person.
Nandun
Julie,
naman.
tanong lang Julie.
Apo.
Pumila ka rin ba?
Pumila.
May tricycle ba
medyo
siyang dala?
magulo pa nga po kasi siguro dahil simula. Kanina pa ulit-ulit silang pinapaayos. Pero ang nakita natin, para ma-organize sila, nilagyan ng number yung mga hawak nilang kopya ng mga ID nila. Yung lang lisensya, I mean, yung ng number para ma-make sure na sapat yung pera kasi for 600 lang yung pwedeng mag-payout today. So para wala ding makakasingit na iba. So di po ako nakapila, in short.
Okay. 360,000 times 5,000 pesos is 1.8 billion. Let's assume na doble siya. If you double it across nationwide, that's about 3.6 billion. So,
Yan, mas malaki yun.
mas malaki.
Oo. Lahat ng munisipyo may tricycle.
Well, let's say 4 billion pesos
Yeah.
this round. 4 billion, let's say so meron pa silang 26 billion. Pero hindi pa klaro at this point when they're gonna disburse that. Is that right? Kasi yung 30 billion na to galing sa AIX, right?
Yes, AIX po ito. Actually, yung 60 billion, AIX yun lahat. Sa DSWD yun. Iba pa yung pondo ng LTFRB or ng DOTR. Ang sabi kanina ni Secretary Lopez, 2.5 billion yung meron silang pwedeng ipamahagi per sector. Pero iba daw po yung computation nila, hindi katulad dito sa sa DSWD na may fix na 5,000 pesos.
May kukunin din sila sa local government fund eh. Yung, di ba? Malaki rin yun eh, yung pinasok.
Sa ngayon po yung sa
contingency fund.
LGSF, parang bigas pa lang yung iniro-roll out. Wala pang certain amount kung magkano yung ibibigay kasi separate din daw na ayuda yung ibibigay ng local government.
May
Pero
pinanggit ba tungkol sa intelligence fund? Billions din
Wala
yun eh.
pong binanggit ang sa previous na briefing kung merong huhugutin sa intelligence funds.
Pero
Dead
kung ano
ma
po,
yan,
kung
dead ma.
yung
Di ba
timeline mo
merong
kanina,
ganong proposal confidential fund ng president.
Oo.
Dinedma sila.
Oo. Ed,
yung timeline na sinabi mo kanina, yung iba mabibigyan pa after the Lenten season. That's 2.5 or 3 weeks from now pa. Ibig sabihin, ganun katagal yung
Hindi,
bigayan.
magpapapako muna sila sa cruise.
Yung sa
Bago sila
probinsya
bigyan.
Boked,
Yeah,
ayun
yeah.
daw yung sabi ni Sec Gatchalian kanina, either a week after na ma-roll out yung sa mga jeepney or after Lenten season pa.
That's
Holy
a
Week.
long way from now.
sinabi na
Tapos
ng...
na yung gera niyan.
Pasyon nga
At the
muna.
announcement of this, sinabi na na DOTR, the jeepney drivers will likely get it April pa. Sinabi na niya.
Oh, okay.
But,
Pero ang sabi din po ni Sec Giovanni, ni Sec Banoy kanina, baka daw end of March. Baka.
baka end of
Hindi.
March. Baka. End of March is Holy Week. Sino magtatrabaho sa Holy Week?
Kasi medyo nakakahiya sila kapag nagbigay sila ng ayuda after the war is over.
Kaya yung mga jeepney drivers nagpaplano ng transport strike.
Oh, ito ang good news sa iyo, Ami. I don't think the war is gonna be
Sige.
since you guys like to look at it from
Mukhang
different perspectives.
lumalambot
Right?
to si Trump wala siyang kakampi.
Okay, we'll leave that there.
Teka. May meron pa akong tanong sa'yo. Julie, ang dami nakakapansin kasi pumapit si Presidente Marcos
Yes.
at sobrang pagkapayat niya.
Yes.
What is happening there? Is there anything
Nag-improve
wrong?
siya ng konti pero since he came back from the US, papayat pa rin siya ng papayat.
Actually, yun din po yung pinag-uusapan namin kanina. Yung video niya kahapon, kitang-kita na mas pumayat siya. Pero walang official statement pa. Hindi natin alam kung hindi pa napag-uusapan yung kalusugan ng Pangulo or any update.
Okay.
Tinanong na rin po natin yan ngayon. So hindi tayo makapagsalita kung paano, although very visible nga nakahapon kita natin. Kung ang tanong naman kung tumigil po ba, huminto or nagpahinga, from New York hindi pa naman siya kumbaga tumitigil ulit ng ilang araw, kasi pagbalik niya from New York meron ulit event. Yesterday nasa Cebu din siya, and today eto nga yung Santa Mesa, and meron din dito sa Palasyo.
So, bibili na
Meron
ako ng
din
plane
pong mga
ticket.
nakalatag na events in the coming days.
Okay, if you get a chance, Julie, in case nagpa-ambush interview siya, I hope you
Yeah.
ask that question. But
Bakit?
for now, we'll leave that there. Thanks so much for your
Bakit ka
reporting,
naman?
mobile journalist Julie Baiza.
Kasi the president's health
you, Julie.
is always
National concern.
Mahal pa naman ang plane ticket.
Pero it's true, no? I'm glad you brought it up. He's gotten visibly thinner.
Oh, and that's not
Tsaka yung
keto diet. I don't think it's keto.
Pero inakyat niya kasi yung yung Camyas Mountain.
Camyas Mountain.
Yung
Mount Kamuning.
Mount Kamuning, yung footbridge.
Mount Kamuning.
Hindi niya alam, dito matawid ang Kamuning yan.
Hindi ka naglalakad ng footbridge Yung problema
But I know what it looks like.
Mount Kamuning.
Kahit pa hindi ako makaakyat doon.
Kami mga pangkaraniwan
May,
tao
may
lang.
pinabantayan kami doon sa ospital sa New York Ewan ko kung ano nangyari.
O ano?
Makikibalita pa ako. Nakikichismis pa lang ako.
Well, over at the upper...
Nakikichismis pa lang.
When you find out, let us know, Ami. But over at the upper chamber, there's a bill, of course, seeking to grant emergency powers to President Marcos to suspend or cut fuel excise taxes, now up for plenary debate this afternoon.
Yeah.
Let's get out to our mobile journalist, Marymon Reyes, for an update. Marymon, papasa ba today?
Magandang hapon. Ang nasabi ni Senate President Tito Soto, plano talaga ng Senado na ma-pass on second and hopefully on third reading kapag wala na raw interpellations or other questions sa mga senador. Ito nga panukala na magbibigay sa Pangulo ng authority o ito yung emergency power to reduce or suspend ang excise tax sa mga produktong petrolyo. Lalo na natuloy-tuloy pa rin daw ang girian sa Middle East, and malaki na yung epekto nito sa pump price, sa presyo ng krudo, ng langis, ng diesel, ng gas at lahat-lahat. So far, sa na-monitor natin ngayon, sarado na yung period of interpellations. Ang inaantabayan natin is yung amendments ng panukala. Yung ilan sa mga na-raise sa interpellation, for example, itong si Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, ang question niya, yung timeline, gaano raw ba kabilis o katagal mararamdaman agad sa pump price, sa merkado, or ng mga normal na consumer yung pagsususpend ng excise tax dito sa mga produktong petrolyo. Ang nasabi ni Senator Pia Cayetano, Committee on Ways and Means and Energy Chairman, is still yung averaging na kinakailangan, yung $80 per barrel, is still 1 month ang aantabayanan ng mga ahensya na nagmo-monitor nito, and it may range 30 to 45 days. Kasama na dyan mismo yung monitoring to the recommendation of the departments or the agencies involved hanggang sa implementation na mismo ng pagre-reduce or pag-suspend ng excise tax. Dito nga lang kasi nasabi ni Senator Ping, baka raw pwedeng paikliin pa, gawing 2 weeks lang para raw maramdaman agad. Pero ang point naman dito na sinasabi ni Senator Pia, yung 1 month average requirement ng DBCC as recommended by them, by the Department of Finance at Department of Energy, hindi raw naman ito para i-delay ang relief, pero para raw isiguro na may stability and predictability. Kasi yung presyo raw ng langis, by nature, volatile to. So, pwedeng mataas sa ngayon, pwedeng bigla ang babagsak yung presyo nito sa susunod na araw. So, ang kailangan dito, yung sustained na 1 month average para masiguro na yung suspension ay nagre-respond daw sa genuine lasting trend at hindi raw ito magiging temporary swing lang. This also to ensure fiscal stability and provision of relief. Ang sabi naman ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, ang tanong niya na lang dito is kung sakali ba meron na bang numero ng mga PUV drivers o mga operators sa transport sector na magtitigil na ng pasada nila, kasi yung iba, ang concern na nila pagkalalabas pa lang, nasa 600 daw agad ang kailangan na ilabas para makapag-gasolina ng diesel. So far, wala pang numero, pero marami-rami ang inaasahan na maapektuhan nga kapag nagtuloy-tuloy pa raw na nagtaas ang presyo ng mga produktong petrolyo. Balik sa inyo.
Marymon, I suppose what a lot of people don't realize is that 30-day averaging involved here. Yung kailangan pumalo ng average of $80 per barrel for 30 days. Pero ang tanong dyan, I think may discussion kanina si Ping Lacson at si Pia Cayetano kailan ang simulan ng bilangan ng 30 days? Will it be after the bill is signed into law or even now pa lang, pwede silang magsimula magbilang? Kasi it's been 2 weeks already or thereabouts magmula ng pumalo ng higit 80 yan.
Bok, ang sabi ni Senator Pia, kasama na raw sa timeline, technically, itong preceding days.
So,
So,
retroactive.
trabaho daw ng mga ahensya ng DBCC, ng DOE, even daw ng DOF, na i-monitor yung presyo mismo. Kasama na dyan sa MOPS. So, kasama na to. So, as ang sabi pa nga ni Senator Pia Kina, as of their speaking sa session, kasama na rin daw yan mismo doon sa timeline. Pasok siya. So, immediately preceding days and even yung preceding data, kasama na raw yan doon sa 30-day averaging.
In other words,
Regressive
once...
siya. It's regressive.
Retroactive.
Magbibilang sila from the start
Yeah.
of the war?
I suppose
starting-
from the start ng pagpalo ng 80, tama ba?
Nung
So,
tumama ng 80,
So hindi kailangan tayo
Kung kailan
maghintay ng
pumalo
30
ng
days
80.
matapos pirmahan itong bill na to, ha?
Oo.
Kasi isang buong buwan yun.
Oo, Bok. Kasi ang kailangan na daw nila dito, yung magpasustain na ito pa rin yung average. Kasi nga, ang iniiwasan nila, baka bigla ang bumagsak yung presyo per barrel. Ibig sabihin daw ba, kailangan mag-restart ulit ng averaging. So yan yung mga question na kailangan pang mabigyan linaw bago raw baguhin. Pero so far, Senator Tia, she's still standing doon sa 1-month average na kakailanganin para masiguro nga na ito talaga at hindi biglang mag-spike or magpa-plummet yung presyo daw ng langit.
So based on Senator Pia's suggestions, the whole month of March can be counted in the clock, on the clock.
Hinihintay na Senator Pia yung magiging sagot daw ng mga department tungkol dyan.
So it doesn't look like, so nag-aantay pa sila ng input. I don't know how they can pass this today. Second and third reading.
Ang
4:30
sabi
na.
naman ni Senator Pia, oo nga yun nga ang sabi ni SP Soto, kapag wala na raw naman ng questions pa or other interpellations, pwede na raw nila mapasa on third reading. And then kapag kami kakailanganin din changes, yun hinihintay din natin ngayon sa period of amendment. So, nasuspend kasi temporarily yung tungkol sa consideration itong bill. Ibang panukala muna yung nakasalang ngayon sa session. So, yan yung hinihintay natin either today until later evening or tomorrow. Pero ang sabi naman ni SP, parang hindi naman daw na magkakaroon ng session pa by Thursday. Pero if kakailanganin, pwede naman daw magpatawag ng special session.
Okay, we'll leave that there. Salamat, and we'll of course monitor the development of that bill through plenary. Thank you for your reporting, mobile journalist
Thank you,
Marimon
Marimon.
Reyes reporting to us live from the
Thanks,
Senate,
Marimon.
where they are trying to push through on second and third reading today the bill to grant the president emergency powers to suspend fuel excise taxes.
Sorry, nagtatawa na kami kasi si Ronald nagte-text ang ingay. Tok, tok,
May
tok,
tok-
tik, tik,
may-
tik,
may
tik,
sound.
tik, tik, tik.
May sound effects.
Hindi ko alam para tagalin yung sound. Paturo ako mamaya.
Okay na nga. Give me your phone. But we will go on a quick break so I can help him with this phone. You're watching Storycon 1 News. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news in the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Regina Lay, still with us. Amy Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, a resident political heckler.
Bumalik ang iyong title.
Bago-bago eh. Nalilito. Kahit ako nalilito.
Keep you on your toes, diba? Lessons from the Middle East conflict. The Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro was interviewed about this today. And he said the first lesson was the need to stockpile fuel reserves more than 60 days commercial requirements. Exactly my reaction. First of all, di ba we spoke to former Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi about this a few days ago already, wherein he said even during his time they were trying to create a strategic petroleum reserve precisely for cases like this. Kaya lang, ayaw ng oil companies. I mean, I don't know what to do about that.
So kung ayaw nila, walang magagawa ang gobyerno.
Kay that's the impression that I got. Kahit na energy sec ka pa,
Diba?
it sounded like there's not much the government can do.
Para kang tigakwan ng gas station. Wala kang magawa.
Gas boy.
Oo, gas boy.
Ang oil reserves ba, these are owned and kept by the oil companies. These are not kept
Technically should be
by
the government.
Because
This is a national reserve. Technically should
So,
be the government. But the
Parang
government does not have,
PNOC.
Yeah, parang sa US.
Oo.
Gobyerno yung may hawak
but the
ng
government
reserve.
does not have money. So so the alternative is to get the oil companies to do it and either pay them or, come up with some sort of an arrangement na sila mag-hold ng reserves na yon. But it costs a lot of money.
and also storage yan eh.
Exactly.
That's a lot of
That's a lot of oil. So, I don't know what happened back then na hindi natuloy itong Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but this is another one of those things that should have been created 30, 40 years ago. Parang yung, reminds me of the anti-political dynasty bill na the provision is there. In the oil deregulation law, it does say that we need a strategic national reserve, but it was never,
Yeah.
established.
Para kasi magkaroon ka ng strategic oil reserve, kailangan meron kang concept of a strategy. Diba?
There you go.
Strategy is
I'm sure meron naman.
A strategy is long-term. Most of our governments exist
That
for-
is the problem
Yeah.
because we think short term.
Very short-term.
Very
Paano ka
short
mag-iisip na long-term? 6 years lang yung iyong term.
So
Diba? Kung may pumalit sa yung bagong presidente, pwedeng i-reverse yung ginawa mo. Diba? Walang continuity. No? Yung 6 years na yan, yung first year mo, learning curve. Yung last year mo, lame duck. So practically you have 4 years. Diba? So, yun yung isang problema. Problema ng ating political system. Sa Europe, may ganun din naman eh. May democratic alternation of powers. Pero may mga minimums na tuloy-tuloy. Social welfare, civil liberties, education. Kahit magbago yung gobyerno, hindi magagalaw yun.
So maybe that is the answer. Okay, you stay as a democracy, pero there are certain sectors
Minimums.
critical to the national welfare that you protect. Maybe that is the long-term answer to this. Because now we're debating, balikin ba yung, tanggalin ba yung oil deregulation law, repeal it, and go back to regulation. Maybe the answer is to identify some of these national assets, national reserves that are crucial to energy and food security. Tapos
Protected nga sa Constitution yung education to get the highest budget in the annually ano nangyari? Ano nakita natin?
And yet, paguho ang ating
ginawa
educational
nila?
system.
That's specified in the Constitution.
Yes, pero paguho
hindi
yung
pa rin
ating
sinunod.
educational system, Ami. Learning poverty
Kaya
natin
nga.
is 91%. Diba? Bagsak tayo sa
Yun na
PISA, etc. So kahit
Kaya
malaki
nga.
yung budget, it doesn't matter dahil yung quality ang mahalaga eh. No? Quality.
Kaya hindi pa nga sufficient yung budget, hindi pa sinunod yung constitutional mandate
yes.
na pinakamalaki dapat yung education. Wala pa rin
100
nangyari. O yung House, approve na ng on third reading yung
Yes, yung bill.
excise tax.
Yung bill
Yeah.
for emergency powers. So now it's with the Senate.
Pero ang sabi nga ni Winnie Masot, it's not a solution.
It's one way to look at it, I have to say. I understand her perspective din which is that you cannot, yung blanket suspension nga subsidizes everybody, benefits everybody, including the wealthy. So you're basically blowing a hole in your national budget to subsidize everybody, including the ones who can afford it. So
So,
that's
konti lang naman yung sinasubsidize na wealthy. Saka yung mga wealthy, they are among the biggest
Spenders.
producers of goods na apektado niyang mga They pass on the cost of everything, logistics in particular, to consumers.
Yes.
yeah.
Like the oil industry.
Kaya
Lahat yan ipapasa
may
nila.
impact yan eh. Kaya
Lahat.
nga yung
Of course.
PCCI hinihingi.
Yeah.
Actually, hinihingi ng PCCI is
Free
to
market
scrap excise tax.
Maybe oil
on fuel,
should not be
kasi
part of the
hindi
free
naman daw
market.
sin product eh.
Oh.
Why do you have an excise tax on fuel? Hindi naman yung sin product.
Yun yung sinasabi sa Europe. Kahit free market tayo, it should serve social goals as well. Not only the wealthy.
So it's a hybrid system that could work for us long term, right? Because as we keep finding out, crisis after crisis, napaka-vulnerable natin with these things.
Problema, we don't have a long term. We have to fix it in the medium term.
Meron
charter
naman long
change
term
ang
yung
solution.
dynasty.
So charter change.
Oh.
So the other, ito pa isang lesson ni Defense Sec Teodoro from this Middle East crisis. We need to increase our anti-missile systems. We need missile interceptors.
Kailangan ng fuel lang.
Teka lang, first of all, kailangan ng budget. Where is the budget for...
Na-imagine ka, bubuksan yung kakargaan ng kerosene, tapos sindihan mo na yung nitsa.
No, teka lang. First and foremost, you need budget. Where is the budget for missile interceptors? I mean, how much do they give the AFP modernization program this year? Maliit lang. Was it 40 billion?
Yung ginagawa ng Ukraine at for lack of a better example, Iran. Kailangan natin drones. Dahil mas mura.
Drones,
diba?
yeah.
Pwedeng
Mura
mass-produce. Diba?
Pwede mass-produce, pwede use it for mass strikes.
That's for offensive capability. But for defensive capability kasi, you also need a huge
Interceptor.
logistics
You need a
hub.
shield.
Kasi you need the radar system. Iba pa yun dun sa missile system.
Interceptor.
Radar system that will be able to identify track
Incoming
and
strikes.
intercept.
Oo.
Kung kalaman natin China, kahit anong radar system ang gawin
Dami,
mo.
no?
Ang dami.
Sila gumagawa ng mga
Kaya nga, dami sila gumagawa ng drone. ano.
But at the same time, what are we learning from this U.S.-Israel war with Iran? Sometimes asymmetric warfare trumps conventional warfare.
Yeah.
Hindi ba? Hindi ba ang Iran, ito nga yung miscalculation ni Trump, right? He thought he could take out Iran in just a couple of days. His own intelligence people told him there is a risk that they might
Palpak.
close the Strait of Hormuz. He said, yeah, and went
not a
ahead
risk.
anyway.
That's not a risk.
Yeah.
That's what they will do.
That's what they will do, exactly. But he went and did it anyway. And now he's calling on allies to send warships to escort vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz. So far, wala pang... wala pang... nobody's taken...
But even asymmetric warfare requires resources. Iran
A lot of
has had a lot
resources.
of R&D ongoing since they split from the US in 1979. Tama.
At
Sila
merong
nga
unconfirmed
nag-supply
reports
ng
ngayon that
drones
it's getting
ng
support
Russia.
from China. Ha?
Sila nagbigay ng drones.
Ganyang report.
Na ano? I mean, sorry?
Na merong ganyang report na Iran is getting support from China
Yes.
in this war.
Oh.
Kasi binibili
You were
ng
saying-
China yung kaya pinakakalusot actually yung mga tanker ng China diyan sa ano.
At saka ang drone
So
system.
actually it's not exactly asymmetric. Ha? If it's China versus US, it's not exactly asymmetric.
No, they're more
partly a proxy.
equal on military might.
Yes.
We're talking about maybe China and the Philippines. I don't know.
Tsaka drones are very inexpensive at saka easy to build. No? Kaya nga yung mga $1 million tanks ng Russia, di ba, winasak nung start ng Ukraine invasion, winasak ng mga kamikaze drones ang halaga $200. No?
Yeah.
$200 yung drones versus tanks na ang halaga millions of dollars. So ganun din dito sa gerang ito. Yung mga missiles, ini-intercept yung drones na ang halaga ay
$2,000.
$500 to $2,000. Depende sa range.
Sobrang laki nga daw ng
Ang
ano.
ginagamit nila, $1 million missiles.
Correct.
Hindi sustainable
Cheap-
kahit
cheap
sa isang
weapons.
superpower like the US and Israel.
Oh.
Unfortunately,
Economic-
last week nagpakitang gilas yung AFP by showing off some of our drones na ginagamit ng Army. Binira tuloy ng mga netizens kasi yung mga drones, kulay pink yung LEC. Mukhang,
Bakit pink?
hindi ko alam eh.
Parang laruan.
Pinagkatawa
So
ng
they
iba,
can
sabi
see
nila
it clearly.
mukhang clip-on fan yung pinanggalingan ng mga LEC.
Clip-on fan.
Hindi mahalaga
May
ba sa
sinabi si
effective?
Gibu
Halimbawa
pa dyan,
yung sa
sabi
Iran
niya,
war, yung dala nila,
we cannot
Wait.
afford to help guard the Strait of Hormuz. Hindi ba given naman yun?
Yes, of course. We don't have the warships. You were
Hindi,
saying.
tsaka
Pero
hindi mo
sinabi
kailangan
niya yan.
dyan eh. Lagyan mo lang ng aquatic mines which cost $200. Maglagay ka ng 1,000 aquatic mines. Wala na makakadaan doon. Hindi ko sinasabi na dapat gawin yun. Pero yun ang ginawa nila before. Nung sinarahan nila yung Strait of Hormuz, naglagay sila ng very cheap aquatic mines. And it took yung Gulf states to remove that for 2-3 years. No? Nilagay mo for 1-2 days, tatanggalin nila for 2-3 days. Ang laki ng damage. Dahil
Hindi nila
30
gagawin
kilometers
yun,
wide lang
maapektuhan
yung
yung
Strait of
sarili
Hormuz
nilang
eh.
negosyo.
30 kilometers lang yun eh.
The AFP is
Pati sila maapektuhan eh.
The AFP is currently developing its integrated air defense system, IADS, which is a layered defense system combining radar, command and control, and interceptor systems. I just don't know how long that'll take.
They have to harden that as well kasi if not, that's the first thing that saboteurs will go for.
Tsaka gano'ng karami ba yung ating interceptors?
Hindi, wala pa tayong interceptors. We need to
Mahal kasi
build the
yun
interceptors, exactly.
Mahal kasi yan eh. Magdo-drone na lang ako. Kaso yung drone ni Gretchen Ho dun sa convoy sa Scarborough.
Mahal yun, Bok.
Lumubog eh. Bumagsak sa dagat.
Yan, kaninong kuha
Pinalala
yan?
pa eh.
Hindi ba bawal yung kumuha ng ganyang kuha?
Yung kamikaze drone sa Ukraine, nakalagay lang sa likod, sa backpack ng mga Ukrainian soldiers. No? Tapos parang laruan, kukunin nila, papaliparin nila, tatamaan yung mga
Para talaga
tangke.
sa laruan.
Okay, ito. So, Secretary Teodoro said even the military is being affected by the rising fuel prices. For now, the scheduled operations, including the maritime patrols in the West Philippine Sea, will
Tuloy.
continue, but options
Yeah.
to halt certain missions are now being discussed. Options to halt certain missions. Di pa niya sinasabi which missions might get halted
Oo,
because of
langis
that.
yan eh.
But there's no crisis.
Di na tayo,
Walang crisis.
di na tayo steam-powered.
Wala namang oil crisis, tayo naman.
Walang crisis.
Walang oil crisis.
Unless, gagawa ka ng sailboat.
O kaya sagwan.
Pupunta dyan. Hindi, mahirap yung sagwan. Nakakapagod yun eh.
Yung sa lumang mga barko, yung dalawang row dyan.
Sailboat. Yung parang kay Spartacus, di ba?
Spartacus.
Kagano ka sa...
He says if it's not really necessary, we won't carry out all operations in the West Philippine Sea because we also need to conserve our resources.
Parang lahat yun necessary talaga. Kaunti lang yung ating ships. And we are archipelago. Kulang na kulang nga yung yung ating ships para medyo mahirap yun.
Yeah, let's just make sure that the troops we have there are still supplied properly.
Yeah. Hindi, iisa lang naman yung BRP Sierra Madre. Diba?
So there might not even be reserves to send out maritime patrols to the West Philippine Sea. Magsasend pa tayo ng escort to the Strait of Hormuz.
Mahirap.
Medyo malayo lang.
May nilabas na map si,
gasolina.
mga bagong map si Justice Antonio Carpio. Yung American era maps ng Pilipinas showing na pati Scarborough. Tignan nyo, baka meron kayo dyan sa... I-forward niya eh.
Yung Velarde map.
Hindi Velarde, it's another
Iba pa?
one. Tignan nyo, meron. Andito sa cellphone ko, nandun
Na-monitor mo ba,
cellphone
Ami, yung
ko eh.
debate sa Senate kanina over Cloma? Nandun yung asawa ng kanyang great-grandson na ginaril ni Marcoleta. No? Dinala o inimbitahan ni Senator Ping Lacson. Yun yung kanilang drama sa Senado. Yung Cloma debate over the West Philippine Sea. Occupation or discovery?
Pero kasi sometimes it delves into semantics na eh. How do you define discovery versus kasi Cloma discovered some of the islands in 1956. But way before that
Meron kang treaty eh.
The Vietnamese were there.
The Vietnamese were already there and was it the Dutch? Yeah, the Dutch Vietnamese. Or French Vietnamese, the French Vietnamese.
Yes,
Yeah,
during the
French
occupation.
Indochina. As early as 1933, they already informed the other countries in the region that they have taken sovereignty over those
Hindi,
islands.
kaya nga merong contending claimants eh. Ang kaibahan, we talk, di ba? We are not being driven away or water cannon or yun ang kaibahan. We can agree to disagree, even with Malaysia, di ba? So, yun yung, ang nangyari kasi dito sa 11 dash line, di ba? Maliban sa, parang pag may-ari nila yung buong South China Sea, we were driven away. Yun yung
Hindi lang yung rocks pati yung dagat.
Tapos nagtayo sila ng artificial islands. Yun ang kaibahan.
Yeah.
Na may military facilities, yung artificial island.
But all of this, for me as well, raises the question of whether the U.S. can still be considered a reliable ally at this point.
Fully distracted sila ngayon.
As much as a little over a week ago, President Trump was telling Britain not to bother sending ships anymore because they've won the war. right, in Iran. And now,
Humingi
fast
siya ng
forward
tulong.
a little over a week later, he's calling on the quote-unquote special relationship that they have with the NATO countries in order to send help.
Pati sa China, humingi siya ng tulong.
Correct.
Pati sa Russia, ililift
Pati
yung
sa Russia.
embargo.
Yes.
So, sino ngayon ang kalaban, sino kakampi? Diba?
But how's this morning, si Trump was talking about Cuba na. I will have the honor
Yeah,
of taking
kukunin naman niya.
Cuba.
Punta naman siya sa Cuba. Ano talaga? Depende sa gising, ano?
I now have the honor of taking over Cuba.
Mahirap, ano ha? How are we all 7 billion people dependent on this man?
Exactly. Exactly. And so I hope the takeaway here for the defense industry is that you cannot hitch your wagon to this horse anymore. At least not solely. I mean, the whole...
Actually,
ano
kasalanan
ba
ni
yan?
Epstein yan eh.
Si Epstein.
Hindi was selected by a
to divert
landslide. He
from
was
Epstein
elected
files.
by a landslide.
Ito ba yung wag na dog niya?
Operation Epic Fury is really Operation Epstein Files.
Yes,
Diba, sabi nila?
to distract away from the Epstein files.
Oo.
Palala yung lumalabas. Palala yung mga video,
Patay
pictures,
na nga yung
etc.
tao.
Diba? Pero mo patay na, ginugulo pa yung mundo, diba? Eh di, kinakailangan
So,
mo na,
kasalanan talaga to ni Epstein.
kailangan mong girahin yung mundo. Para
Para
divert.
ma-bury yung stories on Epstein. Just terrible. Oo nga, or 6 billion people reliant on, affected
On
by
the
this
way he wakes
crisis.
up. Which side of the bed he wakes up?
Basta, parang pinadala ko sa'yo kanina. Hindi nyo kasi
Kwento mo.
nauunawaan. Sabi ni Trump, Ami, this is like a chess game. No? Kinakailangan dito ng IQ. So, hindi nyo kasi nauunawaan. Ano yung nangyayari dito?
Sabi niya, you need to...
High intelligence.
Amazing. Napilitan tuloy akong panoorin yung biography niya sa Netflix eh. Alagang bata pa siya, ganyan na siya eh. And it's amazing that he rose to where he is na. He managed to rise to where he is.
Sabi niya in that
And
video...
to cause us, all of us, so much trouble.
Sabi niya in that
So
video...
much misery.
Sabi niya in that video clip that Ronald sent, you need to have high intellect to understand this.
It's a chess game. Marunong ka ba mag-chess?
Oh yeah.
Sige.
Oh yeah.
Oo kayo, maraming Pilipinong supporter yan.
I know.
Oh.
And I wonder at this
Diba, he won
point.
nga by a landslide.
Oh, I
He
wonder.
was supported, tong war niya was supported by both chambers of Congress.
Correct.
Medyo narrow nga lang, but it was supported.
And I wonder at this point how many of those voters still would support him and vote for him, because remember that Trump campaigned on peace. Diba? He campaigned on the idea that he's going to be a peacetime president, that he's going to end all of these wars. 1 year and a half almost later, they've bombed 8 countries under him.
Here we are.
Oh, here we are. Okay, our next guest is ready. We're going to bring in our the chairperson of the House Committee on Justice. We're talking to Batangas 2nd District Representative, Congresswoman Jervil Luistro. Welcome back to Storycon, Congresswoman. Thanks for joining us.
Naayos pa niya.
Okay.
Naayos pa niya yung
Wala sa
nagsisipon.
I guess it's not ready yet.
Wala sa kotse.
Yan,
Hindi,
sumasakay tuloy sa
siniset up pa
kotse.
niya yung ano niya. Ayan na.
Sumakay tuloy sa kotse.
No, she's in a car. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
there
in
you
a
go.
car.
Yan.
Ayan na.
Hindi yan blow by blow eh.
Ayan na, mukhang pupunta yata uli sa kasalan ba? Ano?
Magandang hapon po, Congresswoman. Thank you for
Another
joining
wedding
us.
ba yan?
Wala pong kasalan.
Magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at sa lahat ng ating
Hi.
mga viewers.
Kamusta kung yung ad
Congresswoman.
cautelam answer ni Vice President Sara? Yung
Oo,
ad
wala
cautelam
sa amin nakakita.
answer niya.
Well, sa akin hong pagbabasa ng answer, it seems to me that it is not an answer. It is more of a motion to dismiss. No? And it's clear in the rules of impeachment of the House of Representatives that motion to dismiss is a prohibited pleading. No? So apparently, hindi po sinagot yung mga allegation of offenses, hindi sinagot yung allegation of ground. The contents of the answer are questions pertaining to the alleged violation of due process and alleged errors in the determination of sufficiency in substance, no? That is why I kept on saying, since I read that answer, that indeed the allegations in the complaint stand because they were never rebutted in the answer of the respondent.
But Congresswoman, we kind of expected that, right? For their team to question the jurisdiction. When you say that it was not the answer that you wanted, what were you thinking you would get?
You will remember that most of the grounds are the same grounds alleged in the first impeachment complaint, although the same was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So it raises questions to the sovereign Filipino people. We were anticipating that this time around, magkakaroon ng kasagutan ang Vice President sa katanungan ng taong bayan. However, we didn't see that in the answer. Instead, what we see are questions about the legality, constitutionality of the proceeding that was conducted. So for me, it is more of a motion to dismiss rather than an answer.
Hindi kaya congresswoman na sineset niya yung predicate para magsampa siya uli ng kaso sa Supreme Court?
That is one possibility actually, no? Kasi nung sinabi niyang we violated the due process in the determination of sufficiency in substance, that we actually had double standard in the impeachment hearing against the president vis-a-vis that against the vice president, he's actually questioning the proceeding itself, which are subject matter of a petition in the Supreme Court. However, I wish to advance as early as now, no? Maliwanag po sa kaso ng Merceditas Gutierrez, the determination of form and substance are questioned that rest upon the exclusive judgment of the justice members. So I don't know really how can this become subject matter of a petition to the Supreme Court. But these are things which are yet to be seen, so wala pa namang petition, and even if there is one, for as long as wala namang TRO ang Supreme Court at wala pang declaration, adverse declaration as to our proceeding, we will simply proceed as mandated in the rules of impeachment of the House of Representatives.
Napagugan
Ano
tuloy
po
ako
yung
ng
next step na yon? Iniintay natin. I understand there will be a hearing tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. So, in fact, I'm here in Congress right now, and it's just now that I was able to confirm, hindi lang pala yung complainant ng third impeachment complaint, but even the complainant of the fourth impeachment complaint waived their right to file a reply, no? Parehas nag-waiver by way of manifestation. Yung Sabale complainants at saka yung Cabrera complainant, no? So, technically, submitted na for determination of sufficient ground ang impeachment complaints. And we are inclined. The justice members are inclined to proceed to the determination of sufficient ground, whether the same exists or otherwise, in our tomorrow's hearing. So in addition to this, magdi-discuss din po tayo ng ating preliminary matters, such as we want to know the opinion of the justice members with regards to the motion for the issuance of subpoena of bank records, as well as the request of Congressman Chel Jokno for the transfer of custody. These are matters we want to address at the onset so that when we start the hearing proper come March 25, no, we will immediately proceed to the presentation of witness and evidence.
Ma'am,
So sigurado na matutuloy na. Tuloy na yung hearing. By March 25, umpisa na yung impeachment formal. No?
Yes, ma'am. That is on the assumption that the justice members or the majority of the members will be declaring that there is sufficient ground that supports the impeachment complaint.
Kasi ma'am, originally meron pang 3 days. After the 10 days for the VP to submit her reply, may 3 days for the complainants to respond, and then 3 days for the accused to submit a rejoinder. When you say na baka tomorrow you're inclined to proceed already to the determination of sufficiency of the grounds, does that mean that yung 3 days is no longer necessary?
Mukhang yung claimants
And it's because It's because there is a manifestation filed by the complainant of the third impeachment complaint and a similar manifestation filed by the complainant of the fourth impeachment complaint that they will not be filing reply to
Urgent.
the answer anymore.
Okay.
So,
Eh kung
na-truncate.
walang reply,
Waiver na.
there is no reason to anticipate rejoinder, di
Mabilis
ba?
na.
So in other words, from the filing of the answer of the respondent yesterday and the manifestation of non-filing of reply of both complainants, the impeachment complaint is considered submitted for the purpose of determining whether or not there is sufficient ground that supports the impeachment complaints.
Kong, may mga lumalabas na mga request yung ibang mga political parties at saka mga congressmen diyan sa House na new evidence. New evidence daw
Yeah.
para
NUP.
ma-firm up yung kanilang support sa impeachment.
Yeah.
Anong status niyang possible new evidence na yan? Halimbawa, yung custody ni Madriaga. Ano nang decision dyan? Tapos itong pinag-uusapan na possible opening ng bank accounts ni Vice President Sara. No? Wala naman ako maisip ng mga ibang new evidence kung hindi yan dalawa na yan. Ano nang status niyan?
Well, these are matters which will be part of our discussion tomorrow, at least as preliminary matters. Although, lahat ng concerns na yon will be subjected to motion and subsequent voting of the justice members, no? With regards to the new evidence, I think what is new here are the allegations on unexplained wealth. So definitely, itong motion for issuance of subpoena for the issuance of SALN, no?
Yeah.
And bank records, these are the new evidence that the people of the Philippines haven't seen. Unlike the grounds of threat, confidential fund, payola, nakita na natin ito. Pero pagdating doon sa unexplained wealth, I think this will be the first time
Yeah.
na makikita ng sambayan ng Pilipino, the SALN, the bank records, and I heard also that they will be requesting for ITR also, the income tax return, no? Now, when it comes naman to the transfer of custody of Ramil Madriaga, this is my take. From my perspective as a lawyer, no? Let us take note that Madriaga has a pending case in court, no? So, hindi siya isang ordinaryong witness lang. And ultimately, we can say that the jurisdiction over the person of Madriaga belongs to the court where the case is pending. No? So, bagaman ang House of Representatives has a power to take custody, protective custody to be exact, I don't think we can rule motu proprio on that without soliciting first the conformity of the court. In other words, between the HREP and the court, it is the court really who has the authority to decide on the transfer of custody. That is in as far as I am concerned. But if somebody will raise a motion during the proceeding, no? Of course, we will be entertaining the motion, and we do not know if that will be supported by the majority. But even if so, I think there will be a constitutional question kapag pinakialaman namin yan without the prior authority of the court.
Follow-up question lang, Kong. Yung usapin ng unexplained wealth, lalo na in relation sa SALN. At dahil dyan, pwedeng mag-request na buksan yung kanyang mga bank accounts sa AMLA at saka sa mga bangko. Ito ba ay kayang gawin ng Justice Committee or ng House for that matter? Or yung Ombudsman lang ang pwedeng gumawa niyan?
And
Ganito,
when are
no?
you...
I'm
and when are
trying
you
to be as conservative as possible in addressing this issue, no? We need to revisit the law on bank secrecy. You will see the exceptions to that. One of the exceptions is impeachment cases, no?
Yeah.
Meron tayong rules sa statutory construction. When the law does not distinguish, we should not distinguish, no?
Yeah.
The law does not provide whether that impeachment case pertains only to the Senate. The law does not provide whether that impeachment case includes the proceeding before the Justice Committee. So, from my perspective, I am inclined to submit that it applies to both. Which means that the House of Representatives, through the Justice Committee, as well as the Senate during the trial, can issue subpoena for bank records by way of exception to the bank secrecy law without violating the provisions of the bank secrecy law.
Yeah, but at what point in the process do you think you will request that and test that provision?
After the declaration of sufficient ground, it triggers already the start of the hearing proper. And if you will be reading carefully the rules, it is once you start the hearing proper that the parties, including the respondent, the complainant and the respondent, can actually file motions for the issuance of subpoena, not only duces tecum for the purpose of documents, but even ad testificandum if they want to compel the attendance of significant witnesses. No, so to my interpretation, these are powers which were granted to the Justice Committee to actually aid the parties in the production of evidence that they need or they wish to present before the Justice Committee.
So, Congresswoman, ulitin ko lang, you're saying dito sa non-answer ni VP Sara, napabilis actually yung proceedings ninyo. Kasi ayaw
Yes.
nang sagutin ng mga complainant.
Yes, yes. It's because the complainants waived already the right to file a reply. And without a reply, there is no reason to anticipate a rejoinder. So it only means that the answer of the VP appeared to be the last responsive pleading in that given situation, which means that submitted na for the purpose of determination of sufficient ground ang impeachment complaints.
So, hindi siya considered reply, ha? It's a
No,
non-answer.
it's answer. We call it answer really. But
Answer.
since the allegations do not respond to the allegations of the offenses and grounds in the
Non-reply.
impeachment complaint,
Yeah.
I consider that not a reply. Instead, I considered it as a motion to dismiss, which is actually a prohibited pleading under the rules.
This
Okay.
this assessment of yours that it's a non-reply, could that be challenged by the other side, or no more?
Well, it depends on them. That is in as far as me as a lawyer is concerned, no? That's how I see it. Kasi pag sinabi mong answer, you should rebut the allegations in the
The
complaint.
points.
Yeah. The allegations in the answer should address the allegations of offenses and grounds in the complaint. But it doesn't appear that way. It did not delve on the offenses and grounds alleged in the impeachment complaint. Instead, it questions the proceeding that the Justice Committee had during the determination of sufficiency in substance, to be specific.
So, parang effectively waived na, no? Her right to reply. Parang waiver na effective. Yun ang impact nun.
Yeah, for clarity, Ma'am Ami, no? Yung sagot ni VP, we call that answer. Tapos
Yeah,
yung
it's a
sagot
non-answer.
ni complainant kay VP, we call that reply. Pero yung reply na yun yung winave ng complainants by way of their manifestation filed with the Justice Committee.
So okay, so in your view, no more challenging this. So we're looking at March 25 for the trial.
Well, for us, we will simply proceed to the impeachment proceeding as provided in the rules, no? Sabi ko nga, even if they elevate the question of alleged violation of due process to the Supreme Court, kung wala namang TRO, kung wala namang declaration pa ang Supreme Court, this is a constitutional duty. That's why we are bound to proceed.
So for as long as walang TRO, you will push through. And
Yes.
what can we expect on the 25th then, Congresswoman?
For the 25th, since that will be the first hearing for the first setting for the hearing proper. Pag sinabi po nating hearing proper, presentation of witnesses and evidence na yan. Unahin po natin yung complainant, and when the complainant is done, that will be the turn of the respondent to present their evidence and their witnesses, no? So, what we expect during the hearing proper, siguro we'll start muna acting on the motions. Yung bukas, discussion lang, plus declaration of the existence of sufficient ground, whether it exists or otherwise. But for the 25th, We act first on the motion, that is issuance of subpoena, duces tecum, and we act also on the request for transfer of custody, and then we proceed to hearing proper. Presentation na ng evidence and witness of the complainant. That's why the complainants need to be ready by March 25.
At this point in the process, does Vice President Duterte have to be physically present or no?
She will be invited as part of the due process, no? You're talking about March 25? She will be invited because part of her right to due process is her presence during the hearing, participation during the hearing. But as to whether or not she will come or otherwise, that's actually her prerogative. Option na yan. Kung dadating siya, magpa-participate siya, or otherwise. But definitely she will be invited because that is part of her right to due process. But for tomorrow, this is actually a proceeding intended only for members, no? That is why ang notice namin for tomorrow are only for the justice members. But yung March 25, since start na yan ang hearing proper, even the parties, complainant, witnesses, and the respondent will also be notified.
Kong, just the other day, ay nag-press con yung NUP, si Congressman Ronnie Puno. Marami siyang hugot eh. May hugot siya sa impeachment, may hugot siya kay Speaker, may hugot siya sa Malacanang, may hugot siya sa mga benefits nila sa mga district, may hugot din siya sa ibang political parties dyan sa House. Are you free or comfortable to make a comment on this? Dahil may kaunting hugot sa impeachment eh.
Well, first of all, I am not a privy to any meeting with political parties or with DS Ronnie Puno. So, I don't think I am in the position to comment to that. Except that, as a House member, I hope, not because of the impeachment, I hope that all the concerns of DS Puno will be addressed. That's all I can say. No? Kasi, of course, I feel for him. Alam ko yung challenges ng members ng House, no? And with or without impeachment, of course, the House members do need to be supported by the leadership.
But he is looking for new evidence. He said that at least once already. And before that, it was Reginald Velasco, the Secretary General, who spoke of the need to come up with new evidence. Even though this is basically the same charge or case.
Let us take note, Ed, no? The obligation to present additional evidence is not actually the obligation of the justice members.
Yes.
It's the obligation of the complainant,
Yeah.
no? In our proceeding, we're acting like prosecutors in a preliminary investigation. Kung walang maibigay na evidence ang complainant, we will dismiss. Pero kung may maibigay na evidence ang complainant, we're bound to continue. But it's not for the justice members to produce evidence. It's for the complainant to produce evidence.
No, I only bring that up because nga, it's basically almost the same complaint that was approved by a huge majority of the previous Congress.
The grounds are almost the same, but just like what I said earlier, no? Yung ibang grounds, halos nagkaroon ng full-blown deliberation during Quadcom days, no? But with respect to the unexplained wealth, which allegedly will be supported by SALN, ITR, and bank records, I think they have not been seen by the Filipino people. So if they're looking for new evidence, I think this is the new evidence that they can consider.
How many NUP members are there in the Justice Committee? Do you know, Congresswoman?
I am not certain as to the NUP members who belong to the Justice Committee. What I'm certain about, we are a total of 38. Sabi nila kasama na ako doon sa 38. But you have to consider also that ex-officio members are allowed to participate and vote in any committee, and that includes the Justice Committee.
Kong, meron ba kayong indicative timeline? Paano, nagtatanong yung mga tao, ano bang aming hihintayin? Halimbawa, magko-convene kayo as a Justice Committee tomorrow.
Yeah.
At sa a weekend, a break na. magbe-break na yung Congress, di ba? Tapos,
Actually, this is one of our challenges, no? Kasi after our session tomorrow, the House members will be going back to their respective district. And it will be challenging for us to gather them as we continue the proceeding of the Justice Committee during recess. No? So, but to your question, ano yung timeline na kino-consider namin? Sir Ronald, it actually depends on the progress of the hearing. We have not seen the actual evidence. We are not certain if the names which are being mentioned in the mainstream media will really appear, no? So, siguro after March 25, yung initial start ng hearing proper, we will be able to assess kung ilang hearings ang kakailanganin. Kasi sa March 25, I will be asking them also to submit the names of their witnesses. So somehow we will be able to assess kung ilang hearings ang kakailanganin for us to be able to finish.
But
Ma'am, if I understood you correctly, you're of the legal opinion that the Justice Committee has the authority to subpoena bank records like a court.
Yes.
If I got you correctly. In that case, who is going to move for the subpoenaing of these bank records, or would that be you?
No, remember that there are endorsers who are House members. So I think they are in the best position to raise the necessary motion for the purpose of issuance of subpoena of bank records.
But you are partial to approving that, if I understand you correctly, because it is within the authority of the committee.
Even if that is my submission, it will still be subject to the conformity of the entire Justice Committee, which means that there should be a motion. And if there's an objection, the same will be subjected to the division of the House.
so the committee has to
Just
vote
for
on
the
it.
record, kasi palagi akong natatanong. I just want the people to know, hindi po bumoboto ang chairperson. The only occasion na bumoboto ang chairperson ay kapag nagkaroon ng tie
Yeah, tiebreaker.
on matters which are being resolved. So, just like for example, in the determination of sufficiency in substance of the impeachment complaints against the Vice President, I was not able to participate in the voting.
But the motion to subpoena the financial and bank records, that still has to go through a vote.
Yes, because remember the Justice Committee is a collegial body. It cannot be resolved by one person alone. It cannot be resolved by the chairman. It must be resolved by the entire membership of the Justice Committee, and that is by way of a motion, which, when objected to, has to proceed to voting.
Okay, we'll leave that there. We'll obviously monitor the proceedings as it goes along. But thank you for joining us today here on Storycon. Congresswoman Jervil Luistro, Chair of the House Committee on Justice.
Salamat.
Regards kay
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Congressman Suntay.
Thank you, Storycon, and magandang hapon po
Wait,
sa lahat ng
Congresswoman,
ating kapwa Pilipino.
May pahabol,
Salamat po.
may pahabol si Ronald.
Regards kay Congressman Suntay. Pakibati sa akin ng International Women's Month.
Noted on that, Sir Ronald.
Okay,
thank you po.
thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ay, Ronald, dininay na ng DBM yung yung sabi
Balik mo
ng
ako dun.
NUP na delayed release yung mga pondo nila.
Dininay ng DBM.
Dininay ng DBM.
Na-delayed ng
Hindi,
release.
ng Department of Budget and Management. Na-delayed yung release ng mga pondo nila.
Yung sinasabi
Yun ang ni Ronnie Puno, di ba?
Oo, yung sinasabi
For later
ng
release
NUP.
daw yung mga pondo nila. Nag-deny ang ng Department of Budget.
So where does that leave us?
Baka may ibang pondo pa pinag-uusapan na yan, naintindihan.
So where does that leave us? Baka galing sa ibang contingency fund, you don't know.
Ganyan away sa mga... May element ng jealousy. Na yung iba,
Pero hindi ba
mabilis-
hindi ba may ano yung isasabay mo yung issue ng pondo sa impeachment?
The peso closed again at a low 59.8. Same level as the record
Yeah.
low that we saw a few days ago. 59.87 noon, 59.8 today. Still at a record low. Can you end on a good
Yan.
note? Can you end on good news naman?
Yun nga, International Women's Month.
Okay.
Congressman Suntay.
Okay, sorry. Balik tayo doon. Thank you for joining Storycon today. I'm Pamituan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao, kapatid. We are one news, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.